That's one of the most fascinating things to me. When I was singing that last part, there is peace like a river, and there is joy like a fountain, drinking the cup of my Father, flying over this mountain. The peace that passes all understanding. Jesus said that this is eternal life, that we would know the Father. Whoa! That I'd know the Father. Oh, God, thank you. Thank you. Thank you that your cross, that you endured the shame. Lord, this isn't some religious act, it's a present act right now. It's a present act. There you are. Jesus, you're with us right now. You endured the shame of the cross, and you disregarded the shame of what man said that you should do. You disregarded the shame of not making man proud of you so you could make your Father proud of you, and you showed us the way. God, give us the courage. Instill some sort of revelation in us that goes way beyond music or words or ideas or a raspy voice. God, give us ability, God, to go beyond this weekend into something that's real. We are losing the battle, and it's not because Jesus lost it. We're losing the battle because we're not walking in the victory. We're walking in demonic strategy that comes from man, and it's anti-Christ. And we call it church. It's anti-Christ. It has nothing to do with Jesus. If it doesn't have what you're doing, you don't see Jesus doing, then stop doing it. It's pretty simple, isn't it? Like, I remember that with worshiping. It's like Jesus just said, don't do that. Why? Because I didn't do it. You don't need to do it. If it's easier for you to reflect on Paul's writings and just realize that he didn't go to Jerusalem for like 3 or 4 years after God called him. Have you heard the voice of the Father call your name? And if you haven't heard the voice of the Father call your name, just lay on your bed. And don't get caught up in the age of this world. If you're a worshiper, be a worshiper. For crying out loud, if you don't like the way I worship, don't worship the way I worship. Worship the way you worship. I don't want you to worship the way I worship. And if you like the way I worship, don't worship the way I worship. Worship the way you worship. This is what God wants to hear your heart. Whoa! Come on, really? Whoa! Is that what this is all about? He wants to hear my heart. He wants to hear your heart. You will enter in more by hearing the heart of a person than you will by hearing their music or their platitudes or their good ideas or their strategies. Oh! There's more victory that's done. Jesus showed us the way. There's more victory that's done. The Old Testament, if you like the law, the Old Testament showed us the way, for crying out loud, when God said, hey, I'm tired of the great strategists. Give me Joshua and Caleb, because they still think I'm the one that's giving them the victory. Isn't that right, Samuel? That's right, isn't it? I love that kid. Yeah. God, you know what? God actually gets excited when you fail. Oh! He likes it when I fail too. He likes it. He likes it when I totally fail. Because he loves it when I fly, and he loves it when I trust him. He loves it when I find him dependable. But you can't find God dependable when we're trying to be independent, right? Oh man, but I want to be independent because I live in America. I'm a Christian, you know. I'm Christian and I'm independent. Wow, what is this? This is crazy, isn't it? You can't say that in Montana. God doesn't want you to be independent, man. Right? He doesn't want you to be independent. He doesn't want you to be independent. God does not want you to help yourself. And he doesn't help those that help themselves. Right? And his grace to us isn't him giving us a little special gift so that we can go, when we kind of realize that we can't help ourselves, and that one moment of our life where we come to the altar and we realize that we're really screwed up and we can't help ourselves. And so there we get to the altar and we say, God, I don't want to be trying to help myself, and I know that you don't help those that help themselves, so help! And when he comes to help, he doesn't bestow you with a bunch of gifts and abilities so you can go help yourself. He doesn't want you to help yourself. He wants to help you. He wants you to be dependent on him. He wants you in the middle of the night when you're all alone and nobody cares about you anymore. He wants you to know that he favors your life. In fact, the Bible indicates that he may favor your life more. He may actually bestow more blessing upon you in those evenings when everybody else has turned their back on you, than when everybody's looking at you as some sort of hero. Well, that's God. You know why? Because God is not a politician. God is not looking for votes on his godhood. God is not interested in a life that does it cookie cutter so it doesn't make him look bad. Because he's God. Oh, he's God. I never do that. Why am I doing that? Oh! It's just, I never do that. I've never done that ever before. It's like a whole new thing for me. Woo! Oh! Hoo! Ah! It's not even the Spirit of the Lord. It's just, I don't know what's going on. I don't know what's going on. I just keep doing it. Oh! That's fun, isn't it? I just think it's great. It's like God just revealing new revelation to us. Right in the moment. Just, God, right there. I feel like he's going to give me new things right while I'm sharing with you. That's going to be hot. Because this is for us. We are changing from glory to glory. You're looking at my face and I'm looking at your face. And if I were to come back here a year from now, or you saw me a year ago, I hope I look better in the spirit than I looked the last time, even though in the flesh I'm sick. You understand? Because grace is being poured out. His word of favor over your life. There's a verse that I started thinking on a while back, but I'm going to just kind of meander back to that moment in the Gethsemane where we were when we were ending the worship. We were singing, and I was saying, there's peace like a river and joy like a fountain, and drink in the cup of my Father flying over this mountain. I was just thinking about Jesus when I got that. I was thinking about Jesus. I was thinking about when he was in the Garden of Gethsemane. And they came to, Judas came with his band of followers to betray him. And Peter cuts that man's ear off. And Jesus instantaneously grabs that man's ear off the ground, picks it up, puts it back on the man's ear, heals the man's head, puts the ear back on his head, and heals him. And then he looks at Peter and he says, Peter, do you think this cup my Father has for me? Do you think I shouldn't drink it? And that struck me one day while I was worshiping to that song. And the Lord said, if you want every door to be open, you got to trust me. You got to trust me in every circumstance. You've got to trust me when you're staring your betrayer right in the eye. And you've got to trust me enough to drink him in and receive him as a blessing from me. Whoa. That's deep. That's power. That's the kind of power I'm after. Power, gifts, all those things, they're not a proven representation of the presence of God. You know what a proven representation of the presence of God is? That you can love somebody that will reject you over and over and over and over and over and over and over again, and you just keep loving them. True representation of the power of God and the presence of God and the love of God resting on your life is when you can look at your betrayer in the face and see him as a cup to be received. This is freedom. We sing freedom. It's loud. I know it's loud. It's loud in this room. I don't even want to sing it because it's loud. You understand? It's not about that. It's about what it's saying. It's about what it's declaring. Are you free to grow? Are you free to sing any way you want to sing? Are you free to go before the Father every day and hold His hand and believe that He's real? Because if that's not what you're free to do, well, then you're not living the victorious life. You're not living in what God... Somehow we got derailed in religion from what Jesus came to offer us. The bottom line of everything that we do in Christianity, everything that Christ came to do for us, was to set us free to have relationship with our Father. Do we have it? And more than that, does it matter to us? It has to matter. It has to matter. It has to matter in our worship. It has to matter in what we do. It has to matter when we walk. It has to matter in everything. It's all connected. So, a lot of great preachers, a lot of great teachers, a lot of great ministries on TV. We have gone through a full-blown couple worship movements. Marketed as they were, in a great way. I mean, we've sold millions of CDs. And they say we'll probably lose the entire next generation right now, the way it stands as the church. They're just walking out, leaving. No connection, no connectivity. Have we really lost? No, we haven't lost. We've just been following men. My goal the next couple days is not to get you to follow me. My goal is to somehow express to you what God has expressed to me for you and for me. So that you can hear His voice, you can attend to His needs, you can follow His desire and His plan. Because He isn't running around trying... See, what we'll try to do is we'll try to figure out what the needs of that generation are so we can fill those needs and somehow make them turn. They're not turning. The whole prophetic thing and the whole seeker-sensitive thing, as far as they are apart, they are singular in one thing. They're losing. Any movement that's made by man, propelled by man, or our energy, or even our ability, will always lose in the end. Jesus gave us victory. Oh, man. Come on. Our ability to not be shaken like Jesus, it's going to take a whole generation of people. I'm not talking about young. I'm talking about every age. Every age. I was just talking with a bunch of youth guys recently. We just started talking. I said, you know what's really going to take? It's going to take me and you and the rest of you guys. This is all I have to say to this whole comment and this whole comment on this whole deal. All I got to say is this. I'm not really afraid. I'm not worried because God's victorious. So all we have to do is get our rears in gear as to what we're really called to be doing and who it is that Jesus really called us to. What are the ones that He's called you to? What are the people that He's called you to? First and foremost, a lot of the things that God really requires in the moment of doing them, guys, to reach an entire generation, to reach this entire city for Jesus, it's the opposite of the world's plan. The plan of the world is quick, get people pleased, get men pleased, get all these people pleased. The plan of the kingdom is always the opposite. Want to know power? Mother Teresa had power. Want to know power? Power is Mother Teresa. She walks in to at the time, the most powerful nation in the world, and all of its leaders in America, probably still is that, and says to Bill Clinton and the entire entourage, basically rebukes them of abortion in 1994 and 1997. And they all have to smile. Why? Because they don't know what to do with a woman of such power. Why? Because she didn't care about what they thought about him. She wasn't trying to be political. And she wasn't trying to be mean either. She was just speaking her heart. How does this happen? It happens by a woman that goes with pennies in her pocket, the equivalent thereof, and just goes to somewhere where nobody knew about those people and nobody knew their name, and she wasn't trying to get a name and derive some sort of meaning in her life from working with the people of Calcutta. She was just trying to follow the will of the Father. You know what I mean. Those are the transformers. Those are the people that transform a whole world, a whole nation. Without ever having to do one campaign, guys, every need is met. She never had to campaign. She never had to have cards. She never had to push anything. Nothing. How? Why? By walking in the way of Jesus. That's how. What do you want from me, Father? Who are the people that you've given to me? Oh, them? Whatever He's called you to, it won't take that much money. You don't have to have glitz and glamour, and we're not going to reach the generation by that, or trying to manipulate them or coerce them by our thinking and our ideas. It's not just this generation, it's every generation. God's looking for us to say, are we satisfied yet? And this is what the Lord's been speaking to me. Are you truly satisfied, Jason? I'm sitting on a plane thinking about this. Are you truly satisfied? Are you satisfied? Are you satisfied? Listen to this. Matthew 5:6 says, blessed are those that hunger and thirst for righteousness, for they shall be satisfied. So I started thinking about that one day. Blessed are those that hunger and thirst for righteousness, for they shall be satisfied. Why don't you say it with me, just like we're in kids' class, you know? Blessed are those that hunger and thirst for righteousness, for they shall be satisfied. I love God's word on this passage out of God's word, and a couple others have it this way. Blessed are those that hunger and thirst for God's approval, for they will be satisfied. The Message says it this way. You are blessed. You're blessed when you've worked up a good appetite for God. Because you find that He's the best drink and the best meal the best food and drink and the best meal that you'll ever eat. It's almost like God says, I love it through the Message. He almost says it this way. It's just basically like, you know, God doesn't say, to you when you get angry and you leave, like somebody might say, a bad father in the earth would say, well, you're wrong and you smell bad, or whatever we'd say, you know what I mean? Bad fathers, and don't you ever come back if you walk out that door. God, He doesn't say that. He says, He'll be back. This is God. This is the Father. You'll be back. You're going to be back. I'll be waiting. And He sends angels to your protection to protect your little rear while you're running around. This is how awesome our Father is. He is so awesome that He is not in need of us telling Him how awesome He is. He's not even looking for that, you guys. He's looking for relationship. This is hard for us to believe, but this is what He's always wanted. Not recognition, not fame, not anything. Just, can I have my children back? John 17:9. That's what I've been thinking about lately. And I do not pray for the world, but I pray for those that you've given to me. Whoa. That it would not be God's will for you to spend the rest of your life trying to win the world. What have we done trying to win the world? We haven't won the world. That's what we've done. We've not won the world. We're not winning the world. That's a bummer. But it's okay. This is the thing. There's no condemnation in this. Because God, He's victorious. See, and once the church comes alive into its sonship and daughtership, once the sons and daughters of God come alive, all of creation is groaning for that to happen. But there's something else that's groaning for that to happen. All of heaven. All of heaven just waiting. Waiting on you. Waiting on you every morning. Waiting on you every morning. Waiting on you every morning. God, give us revelation that you're waiting. All of heaven is waiting on you every morning. Actually waiting for your response. Actually waiting for your ears to be open to hear. Actually waiting for you. Just say, God, I want to hear you. I want to hear you. God, that's what we want. This is all worship. This is worship, worship, worship. Music has become the idol of worship. Come into this moment right now and give us worship, God. I want to hear. I want to hear. I want to hear, Father. I want to be satisfied. by your approval of me. Jesus was the new Adam. Think about this. The Father was satisfied with Jesus. This is amazing to think. At the beginning, the Father was also satisfied with Adam because he said it's good. Listen to this. He said here, it's good. I made this creation and it's good. The only difference between the blessing on Jesus and the blessing on Adam is that Jesus received it. Jesus was satisfied by it. Adam wasn't satisfied by it. That's the problem with me and you. That's the problem with me. You understand what I'm saying there? It's the problem with me and you. You see that? It's the problem with me and it's the problem with you. It's not the problem with you and I got out of it a while ago. It's the problem with me and you. That's the problem with us. We are not satisfied by God's approval, but it's being sung over our lives every day. I am not satisfied, and God has to reverse our thinking. He's got to renew our minds to actually not be satisfied by man's approval, but be satisfied by His approval. This has gotten so bad that I'll talk to worship leaders and I will tell them, just do whatever the Father wants you to do. Just get up and worship the Lord. And everybody says, but what about the people? I have never heard anybody at one of those conferences say, what about God? It's always, what about the people? God isn't interested. This is kind of funny. God is not interested in all the people. He's interested in you. How does that work? It's beyond our understanding. He's not interested in all the people. You understand? He's interested in you. How does that work? Because God's more singular. He's so grand and so huge that He has enough time for you. So church is about you. I'm not talking to me generation. I'm talking about He's focused on you. He's focused on every little thing that I do, that I follow His will. It doesn't matter to Him that I got you all to agree with me, or are you all pleased with me? It matters to Him whether I am obedient to Him. And what we try to do is mass produce form. And we will even formalize God, won't we? That's what we do in religion. We formalize God. But see, a form, Heschel said this, a form of God is merely, it's literally to fashion God into a form is to make God the shadow of man. That's what we do. We even fashion God into a form, worship into a form, preaching into a form, songs into a form. God hates form. But He's crazy about you. He doesn't want this big old, woo, they all look the same. Woo. He's saying, where's my love song that I created? Where's my love song? Where is that song that I sang over? Where is that song that I breathed into existence? And why is it not singing what I created her or I created him to sing? Why is it not living and productive in what I made them to be? Why is it fashioning itself after some form that man made, trying to put my people once again into bondage? Does He satisfy? Adam was not satisfied with God's approval. Jesus was satisfied with it. Are you satisfied? Such simple stuff. Almost seems. Think about this. Israel, from the time of Adam through the prophets, was not satisfied with God. That's where we are. Hi, sweetie. Was not satisfied with God. Think about that. This is eternal life, Jesus comes and says to us, that you would know the Father. Today, if you hear His voice, don't harden your heart. Why does that even have to be said? Because Jesus knew that you could hear His voice and harden your heart to it. He knew that man was not satisfied by God alone. That is a crazy thing. We all think that man was satisfied by God. The reality is we all think of all kinds of things about Israel and why they messed up and why we wouldn't, but we all do the same. We are Jacob. And God takes care of us, and God blesses us, and God speaks over us, and God protects us, and God sets us free, and God does so many things for us, you guys. He rips open the waters so that Israel can walk through, and within 200 years they want a king and they don't even believe in God anymore, essentially. Because the bottom line of our existence is His approval. It's not what matters to us. It's not what matters. It's not in the books. It's not in the books you read. I've been to theological seminary. It's not in the books you read. It's not in the ways to start churches. It's not in results-oriented ministry. It's not in worship. It's not in anything. Nothing that we have out there reeks of what it should reek to enter into the nostrils of heaven. And that is, God, when you say yes, that pleases me. We don't teach our children that. We don't teach ourselves that. We don't teach our spouses that. We don't teach our families that. We don't teach our churches that. We teach that if by chance Jesus were to walk into this room, we all ought to be fearful. But we never teach our people that He is in the room and He's speaking your name. Listen. Whoa. You know what you're called to. There's a destiny on your life, and you're being trapped in something that man wanted to place on you. God knows your name. Prophets know our name. We will stand in line and pray for a prophet to pray over us, and not realizing that God all the time is speaking our name. Do you understand that? Whoa. So that's the question. Does God's approval really satisfy? Just ask that. Does your approval really satisfy me, God? Does it really satisfy? Deep down in my heart, does it really satisfy me? So I was in a Detroit airport. I love this. I was in Detroit airport, and I was sitting, and I was reading the Word, and I had my computer open. I don't know what I was doing, actually, to be honest with you. And I looked up, and there was this woman in her 80s, and she's eating a sandwich, and that sandwich had, mayonnaise and stuff, and lots of mayonnaise, and I looked up, and I saw her, and I looked down immediately because she was like in her 80s, and she had been in the sun a lot, and there's really big wrinkles, and she was just smiling at me. And I think one of her teeth were missing and everything, And she was smiling at me, and I just kept looking down. And every time I'd look up, she was still looking at me, smiling. And what she didn't realize is that she had a lot of mayonnaise. It was like all over this side of her mouth. And I knew that if I kept looking at her, I was going to have to tell her something. And I just kept looking up at her, and she just kept smiling at me. Just smiling at me. And then I'd look down, and I'd look up. Mayonnaise. Just everywhere. And I said, good Lord. Do I tell her? I'm not going to tell her. And all of a sudden, I heard the voice of my father say, I sent her there right for you, right there in Detroit Airport, just to show you what it looks like to be satisfied. She is satisfied. She does not care what you think, Jason. She's 80, and she's loving her sandwich. Mayonnaise. Oh, Lord. Yeah. I think Jesus, he's looking around for models of the kingdom. I think he'd find the old woman with the mayonnaise and the little child with the mayonnaise. You understand what I'm saying? When I look at my child and I look at his granddad, I see something that's very similar in each of them. They get each other. Because one knows better and one doesn't know better. And they end up at the same conclusion. I'm not talking about childishness or childishness. I'm talking about childlikeness. I'm talking about the childlikeness of a woman like Mother Teresa or my father-in-law or my dad or my mom. I'm talking about that kind of childlikeness that you get in an older person, or the woman with the mayonnaise on her face that's just satisfied eating her sandwich and doesn't matter, you see. And the beauty of a child, and all of us in between. You know, Jesus never walked around and found a middle-aged man striving for approval and acceptance in society to point to as a model for his kingdom. You see? You see? You see? We mess it up in the middle age. We mess it up. We mess up our call and we miss God. We miss His beautiful direction for our lives because we're just striving like Jacob. Instead of lying down, finally Jacob's lying down, and while he sleeps, I will dream of a generation not known for their crowns or success, but a king who was satisfied. Who is interested, what kind of king isn't interested in crowds or pleasing man, but knowing me? Jesus. Why is it so important? Because our ability to truly love is connected, and God's going to call us into a whole new place of loving. He's already called us into it. He doesn't have to call us again. His word is eternal. He's just waiting on us. He's saying, whoa, I am ready. I've been waiting a long time, and I'm ready. I'm ready. I'm ready. I'm ready. I'm ready. I'm ready. Our ability to truly love hinges on whether our satisfaction is coming from God or man. Whether our approval is coming from God or man. Whether it's more than that. It's really satisfaction. What approval satisfies me? Remember when I wrote a song called Lion of Judah. And it says, hear the sound of the Lion of Judah. See the fire and the fear in the enemy's camp from the sound of the Lion of Judah roaring again. There's a new generation arising, a nameless, faceless tribe. All they fear is the fear of the Lord. All they hear is the Lion of Judah. And I remember I've been many places where people have taken me up to task, and they have every right to do that. They can hate me if they want to, really. and some people do, and they're Christians, you know. And anyway, and I remember this person one time really confronting me and saying, I don't like that song, Lion of Judah, because we are priests, we are kings, we are this, we are that, we are, whoa, wow, yeah. And nameless, faceless. That's garbage. That's what he told me, it's garbage, nameless, faceless. I said, well, it wasn't garbage for Jesus, and it wasn't garbage for Paul, so I don't claim it as garbage. And the proof is in the pudding, actually, because people striving for name and recognition have rarely gotten it in the kingdom. Now, you can get it in the world, but people that strive for name and recognition burn out and die out. Look at the Bible. You will not finish strong if your acceptance comes from man. You will not finish strong if your approval comes from man. This is not a doctrinal thing. It's not even an argument. The whole reason Jesus came is so we could have relationship with the Father. However that works. If it's the Bible and that's the only word that you believe in, that's empty to me, but if that's what you got, go for it. Just read every word in there that the Father says over your life. And believe it. Don't doubt it at all, just believe it. But there's more than that. Jesus came, that's pandering. I'm not going to pander, I'm not a politician. Jesus came, don't make it in vain. He came to give you access to the Father. Do you understand? He came to give you access to the Father. He actually is speaking your name. He doesn't want you to live alone, and He doesn't want you to live independent, and He doesn't trust you either to live independent, by the way. So if you've blown it and you're failed and you're a moron and you did all kinds of crazy things, you're in the best place. It's all reversed in the kingdom, see? Jesus asked, "Do you love me?" To Peter, remember? Peter, I think of when I was talking earlier about Jacob, see, striving, the way we are, we're just like Jacob. If Jacob was the cornerstone and the foundation of the Old Testament, well, Jesus pointed to Peter as that foundation of the new. And it's interesting that they have a lot of the same characteristics, isn't it? And Jesus asks Peter, "Peter, do you love me?" And he keeps asking Peter, "You know I love you." And Jesus was not satisfied by his answer, right? And he keeps saying, "Feed my sheep. Do you love me? Feed my sheep. Do you love me? Feed my sheep." Peter really couldn't really answer the question because he was still asking the question, you see. Peter was still grappling with this whole thing that we all deal with. His satisfaction still came more from man than it did from God. And Jesus kept saying, "Do you love me? Do you love me? Do you love me? Do you love me?" You know the greatest answer to "do you love me" is? That you actually are satisfied by his approval over your life. That satisfies you. That's it. Religion is the answer to ultimate questions. Questions like, who will listen to me? Questions like, am I valuable to anyone? Questions that are probably being asked right in this room. Questions like, will anybody spend time with me? Will anybody love me? Will anybody feed me? Now, and said these questions are never answered by words, but by actions, and these actions are rarely taken by people too busy trying to be accepted by culture. These actions are only taken by those courageous enough to go where nobody knows their name. Listen, the Lord spoke to me when I was reading that and said, the world is in desperate need, Jason, not of more people in the church trying to feel like somebody's in the world. Or a better way, I felt it this morning while I was worshiping and praying on the plane. He's not looking for more people in the church trying to find the somebodies in the world and have them tell him that they're somebody. When Jesus was asking Peter, do you love me? Does my love for you, does it satisfy you? He was actually saying, Peter, does my love satisfy you? What he's asking us tonight, does my love, does my affection, does my word over your life, does it mean something to you? Because if it doesn't mean something to you, what we'll spend our life doing is trying to be relevant to culture and trying to get all the somebodies in the world on our side and go to all the somebodies and say, please tell me that I'm somebody. And Jesus says, those are my sheep. You're not feeding my sheep when you do that. I'm looking for a nameless and faceless generation that knows there's somebody in me and they've heard me declare their name from the heavens and they hear me every day approve of their life. I'm wanting people that are willing to go into the midst of places of rejection by the somebodies and wait in that rejection long enough and not reject them preemptively, if you know what I mean. Because that's what we do sometimes, even as worship leaders and as preachers and as pastors. We will preemptively strike people with rejection before they could strike us. You don't know how to worship. No, just worship me, Jason. Oh, you don't know how to worship. And God all the time is saying, you're not worshiping me, Jason. Just worship me and allow them to reject you over and over and over and over and over again. That's what he's asking you to do. He's saying, does my approval of you really matter? If my approval of you mattered, it would shake the entire earth. They wouldn't know what to do. If 1 million people in the earth, all that mattered to them was God's approval. 1 million. Or less maybe. It would completely shake the earth. If we had 1 million Mother Teresas running around the globe, what do you think that would do to the earth? I'm not talking about doing what she did. I'm talking about doing it in the way she did it. Whoa! It would transform culture. Do you love me? Not how many people take you seriously. Not how much are you going to accomplish. But do you love me? Is my pleasure and my approval of you enough? Will you go to the ones that will not heal your rejected heart? Go to those nobodies and, go to those somebodies and they'll say that you're somebody. Well, you're somebody. Well, you're somebody too. You know what I mean? Well, thank you. Yeah, I'm just glad I'm somebody. Well, you're somebody. Well, woo, we're all somebody. So then what we got in the church, seeds, that's what we've had the last several decades, is we just have a church that's filled with people that really wanted to be CEOs. Listen, they really wanted to be kings. And you know what? God would have been pleased if they would have just gone and done that. Why don't you just go and do it? If I want to be an entertainer, I shouldn't be up here. This is wasting time for God, being an entertainer. We have bitten the lure of thinking that mass media, production, and money is a sign of God's approval. That people filling stadiums is a sign of God's approval. And because of that, we are losing. But not because Jesus lost and not because he isn't victorious. Just because he's just looking for us to start walking in it. He's looking for us to really believe it. To look beyond the window there to the sky above, to the open air, and believe that we're not alone. To trust that he calls our name. To be able to do things that maybe will have absolutely no seeming temporary effect for maybe your entire life. But the reality is, I'll tell you right now, just in faith, it wouldn't even take that long. It'd take 2 years. It would take 2 or 3 years max to revolutionize our entire world if we would just buckle down and take care of those that God has given to us to take care of. That's it. It would take 2 or 3 years to completely revolutionize culture and start a multiplication process that would change the entire globe. 2 or 3 years. I bet we're not willing to do it. I'm hoping and I'm praying that something will happen and shake us. And God may just have to take the whole money thing out of the picture so we don't have anything else to do. Right? He just may do that. He just may take it all the way out of the picture and just say, oh, sorry, you can't do it with that. So I'll just take that idol right out of the way and help you out. Now get going. Because if money isn't there, you're not going to worry about what that guy thinks of your worship. Because you're not trying to fill a position anymore. You're just being you. God wants to set us free. He wants us to be free. He wants you to be free. He does not want you to take on a yoke of worshiping the way I worship. He wants you to take on the yoke of living your life the way Jesus lived it. He gave us the model to hear the voice of the Father. Oh, Lord, I got to wait until I hear your voice. I got to wait. I got to wait. This is our only duty, for that voice to satisfy us. And I'm just going to begin to sing worship, but I felt like I needed to just take some time and share it with you. And I'm going to just begin to sing in the next few minutes over you the very word of the Lord. And we're just going to see where the Lord leads us.